and we're going to do a little demonstration on growing and a little chat on growing lettuces, which are one of my favourite salads. So to start with, you can grow lettuces in virtually any sort of container really. You don't need a big garden, so if all you've got is a balcony window box, you can grow a few lettuces. Different varieties for different times of the year. Most of them will grow right the way from spring through the summer, so you don't need to worry too much. But when you get to September time, then it's time to look for varieties that will grow through the winter. Things like Arctic King and all the year round, which are good old varieties that you'll find in your garden centre or in your seed catalogues. And if you choose the right varieties, you can have lettuce virtually all year round. In fact, all year round. Gets a bit more difficult to grow them in the winter, obviously, when the days are short and the temperatures are low. Much easier in the summer, and it's a good veg for people to start. If you've never grown veg before, it's quick growing, you see the results quickly. You can eat them from seedlings, just as salad leaves, right up to full grown lettuces. This is a little cost lettuce, which you'll all know, you can find it in your supermarkets, called Little Gem. Lovely little cost, cut it in half, it's got a lovely crunchy heart to it. And a good one to grow through much of the year. You can certainly grow all the way through the spring and the summer. This only took 8 weeks to grow from sowing. So very quick, very easy, and anyone can do it. So do have a go. We're going to start a little demo on sowing, which couldn't be easier either. So all I've done is fill a small tray with some ordinary compost. Can be any kind of compost, multi-purpose compost, really doesn't matter. They're not fussy, don't need anything special. So I've just filled a tray. You notice it's quite a small tray, so we've only got nine lettuces here that we're going to start off. And the key with lettuce is not to sow too many at once. Unless you've got a very large family that can eat an awful lot of lettuce, the best idea is to sow a few, little and often. So every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, from about March right the way through to the end of July, just sow a few so that you've got a continual supply rather than loads all happening at once, because they tend to bolt, they'll go to seed, they'll flower, and then they become very bitter, not very nice to eat. So just a few at a time. Tray here, say ordinary compost, just nine lettuces. Now I mentioned this one's Little Gem, so I'm going to sow some Little Gem seeds here. These were free with Kitchen Garden actually, at one time. So we're just going to, so I've already used these to grow the before. Now you get, in a packet of lettuce seeds, you'll probably get several hundred at least, even in a small packet. Some of these larger packets I've got, these Italian seeds, there's several thousand seeds in, which is enough to last a lifetime. So you can just keep using the same packet, which might be from 99p up, so it's a very cheap thing to do. A few seeds in your hand, not too many, we only need 9. What I'm going to do is just spread them out. Now you can either just pick them out and sow one or two on the top of each cell, or there's a little trick you can do, which is if you've got a dibber or a stick, or even a biro, just a little bit of water on the end, and you should find that you can pick up a seed and just pop it on the top. So if you're not great at, or if your eyes aren't great, this is, it's not too bad, the seeds aren't too small, so you can do that, or you can just literally pick them up with your fingers if your fingers aren't too big. If you've got sausage fingers, then you might be better with the dibber trick there. And either 1 or 2, I normally put 2 on the top of each. As I say, the seeds are cheap, you've got plenty of them, so there's no need to skimp. And then if you do happen to get 2 coming up in each cell, you can just eat the smallest one and let the bigger one grow on. You just do that right the way across. So not many cells, so it won't take too long. Now they don't like to be too hot, lettuces. They're a sort of cool season plant, so you probably do want to avoid sowing when it's very hot weather. I usually stop sowing in late June, early July if it's hot. Leave it for a few weeks, then when the weather cools again, it's quite cool at the moment, then start sowing again. If they get too hot, they just don't germinate. And in fact, professional growers will actually put them in a cooler place, a sort of cool growing area to keep the temperature just right. They don't really like it anything above 70 degrees to germinate. So if it is that you are sowing in the summer, keep them somewhere cool, as cool as you can. So we've sown the seeds. Now what I'm going to do, rather than cover them with compost again, you can do just a thin layer of compost, but lettuces need a little bit of light to germinate, so it's good not to cover them too much. So I usually use perlite, which I've got here, or vermiculite. It's also much easier to use. If you use compost, you've got to have a sieve. If you use this, you can either try sprinkling it from the bottom of the pot, if it's fine enough, or just a little sprinkling over the top. Literally, and the only reason really you're covering them at all is to stop them drying out. If they're sat on the compost without any covering at all, they do tend to get dry, but like this keeps them a little bit damper, so while they're germinating they don't dry too much, but it also allows a bit of light to get through to the seeds. And that's all I would do. Label it up, we'll give them a water with my famous watering can that just, oh no, better today, better today. Give them a good soaking. You could water the compost first if you want to, or you could stand this in a tray of water and just let it soak up gradually. But we'll just give them a good water. Then all you need to do, you don't need a propagator lid or anything. The only time I would use one of those if I was sowing very early spring and it's still quite cold outside. Just leave them as they are. If you've got a greenhouse, cold frame, a cool conservatory, not a south-facing conservatory, as I say, don't want to be too hot. Just put them somewhere shady and cool, but where they're getting some light, and they'll germinate within certainly 7 to 10 days. You can let both seeds grow on if you're lucky enough to get 2 germinating each cell, and as I say, just nip one of them out, put them in a salad, let the other grow on. These have been planted out, these are actually planted out in a polytunnel, but you could plant them outside for much of the year. Plant them about 6 inches apart, these little gems. If you've got big butterhead type lettuces like these, then you'll need to give them just a little bit more room. The other thing you can do, because as I say, lettuce seed, relatively cheap and you get quite a lot of it, is just to grow them as salad leaves. So you could just scratch out a row in your garden, a little drill, you know, 1/2 inch deep, sow your seeds in there quite thickly, much thicker than you would if you were growing them to full size. Let them come up as little salad leaves, and then harvest the leaves individually and put them in a salad, leave the plants in the ground to grow on. That's what I quite often do with this variety, which is salad bowl. Now this is a great one for that, for sort of cut and come again as they call it. Rather than buying those pillow packs in the supermarkets, just keep a pot of this handy. It will grow, you can pick off individual leaves and it will just keep growing. As long as you water it and feed it, you'll be able to harvest it until it goes to seed, which will, depending on the time of year, can be up to a couple of months. So you've got easy salads, very, very cheap, for several months. And that's growing lettuce.